finally beginning to understand. You may think that Brent's understanding is increased really fast. In fact, you think it's really very strange for the amount of time that's passed in our story. In fact, so far in this narrative, all of about 30 seconds have gone by. But Brent has already gone from being a completely ordinary person to becoming the most experienced person in the entire history of humanity, in that he's been the very first person ever to experience a total alternate dimensional reality. But that was just the beginning of his adventure. You see, he finally realized that he could communicate with all of JohnBob's thoughts. His thoughts and JohnBob's seemed to melt into each other like a drop of cream in a fresh cup of coffee, or one of countless other analogies I could have thought of that may have been better. But anyway, their thoughts seemed to dissipate and meld and form a sort of colloid, sort of swirl, until eventually they were completely consistent. And for a moment, they were one. And so, during this state of unity, JohnBob bestowed upon Brent all the knowledge he ever needed or ever would need. All that was left was for Brent to understand how to work it all out. In fact, Brent would take a lot of work, and it would require him to understand a lot of new realities before he could even begin to unlock all the knowledge he had just gained. But he figured it was as good a start as any, because he was already the most enlightened being in the entire existence of humanity, so why stop now? So, with time, in fact, it's kind of hard to explain exactly how this works. I know a lot of things have been hard to explain in this story so far, but hey, you try explaining the entire definition of reality and all existence. Yeah, I didn't think you could. Anyway, imagine you could take that whole scene I just described to you, only play it backwards. Only instead of the gaining of the knowledge going away, like going into reverse and receding back into its previous states, it would be retained. So basically, what happened was the cream and the coffee separated and became coffee and cream again in separate containers. Only the knowledge that each of them had shared remained not only in their minds, but in each other's minds as well. In effect, they had just done what you humans would refer to as a mind meld. Only this wasn't quite the same sort of mind meld you probably experienced in your various science fiction writings, but this was sort of an existence which compiled all of their collective consciousness together and made it one and the same for only a brief period of time, and in such a manner that each side left a permanent imprint on the other's reality. Each shared all of its experiences with the other that the other had not experienced. All the realities, all the senses, all the pizza toppings, everything. And then Brent finally began to understand for real. JohnBob, he said, I don't even know where to begin. Not even a minute ago, I was just an ordinary guy. And now, I'm some sort of extra-dimensional being. Isn't that what you are? And JohnBob said, good, puppy, you're learning. Okay, so for my next trick, I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience. Okay, I pick you. And he pointed one of his innumerable tentacles at Brent. And Brent said, okay, I think I make as good a volunteer as anyone. Good, said JohnBob. Just step into the circle right here. And with that same tentacle he pointed out with, he drew a circle. Only it wasn't technically a circle, just not in one dimension. It was also a sphere, and all the countless other shapes that pi can stretch into if you force it into the physical universe. Pi is a really interesting number. If you take the circumference of a circle and stretch it out flat, it becomes the length of pi of those circles. And that is something so simple, yet so advanced, that it took humanity millennia just to begin to understand it. And that is where we led to Brent's.